and welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you some Valentine's DIY gifts that you can make pretty quick and easy, and they're very inexpensive. So if you want to know how to make them, stick around. I'll show you how. And be sure and hit that little likey button down there because it really does help my channel. Right, Maxwell? Okay, I'm going to start with a 4-inch ornament that just opens up in half. If you have one of these left over from Christmas, or you can actually get these on Amazon. I'll give you the link for these. And then I got my flowers at Michael's, and they're on sale right now. That bundle is for $4.99. Okay, then I'm just going to take some pliers, and I'm just going to start cutting my flowers off. Now, you're going to cut them off short here in a minute. I'm just starting like this to kind of see where I'm at. And try to save your greenery because you will want that. Okay, so just start putting them in here until you get as many in here as you want without it being crowded. You don't want it pushed up against the side. And you are going to have to continue to cut them until you get them to the length that you want. You want to be able to close your ornament and then be right in the center. And I'm using a couple different shades on this. I'm using 2 of the lighter colored ones, the big ones, and then I'm going to use 2 of the darker shaded ones for the small ones. But definitely keep your greenery because it really does make a difference. And then once you get them bundled, go ahead and put them into your ornament just to make sure they fit before we go to the next step. Just make sure that they're not crowded and pressed up against the side, that they are kind of in the center. Next, I got this little beaded floral paper. That's what they call it on Amazon. I'll give you the link for it. It's just got some little beads along the top edge, and it does bend. And you just want to get enough to where you can wrap it around these a couple of times, and then we're going to cut it off short. This just kind of dressed up the flowers a little bit. Just kind of put them in there and then roll it up a couple of times, and then we're going to cut it off short so we can put it into our ornament as well. Just make sure that you can get it in there, and then I'm just going to take my scissors and just cut it. It says it's called floral paper, but it actually feels more like a netting. And I'm just cutting off enough to go around these a couple of times. Next, I'm going to take my little flowers, I'm going to bundle them up together, and then I'm going to put a rubber band around the bottom to hold them together. Just kind of squeeze them up there and then squeeze the bottom together and put a rubber band around the bottom. And I'm just using a clear rubber band. I'll give you the link for these. I get them on Amazon. And then just test fit them in there to the little ornament again to make sure that they'll fit. And then I'm just going to wrap this floral paper around it with the little bead side kind of up close to the top of the flower, but not all the way to the top. Kind of just about to the top where the stem starts. And then once I get it wrapped around there good, I'm just going to kind of straighten it up, and then I'm going to put a rubber band around the bottom on this one as well. It just kind of holds it all in place together, and then I'm going to glue those 2 overlapping so it looks like one solid piece. I'm going to trim the bottom off pretty close to the very bottom, just enough to get them back in here so that they are standing up straight like that. I did trim a little bit more off because it was touching the top of the ornament. And then that fit good. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue down at the bottom on one side, put this kind of centered onto that little circle, and then I'm going to put some glue on the opposite side and close this up. And I'm using the end that has a little tab. The base, I'm using a 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 flower pot. I'm just using some white chalk paint to paint the outside. Just kind of probably to get a couple of coats on this. Chalk paint works really good on the terracotta pots because it dries real fast on there and it's super smooth. And I'm just using a chalk brush, paint brush to put this on with. And then I'm going to do the outside and the inside of this, both of them. The last coat on the outside, I'm using a little bit of a smoother paintbrush. I'm taking a piece of cardboard and I'm going to cut a square that measures 6 inches by 6 inches. And I'm just using some cardboard scissors to cut this out. I'll give you the link for these. I got these on Amazon. They work really good. Next, I'm taking some 6-inch netting and I'm just going to wrap this around my cardboard, and I'm going to wrap it around 9 times. Just kind of make sure that you do get it pretty straight. And once you get to your 9th time, we're going to cut it off, and then we're going to trim down both sides so that we have some 6-inch squares. And I'm using 2 different colors of netting. I'm using a bright pink, and then I'm using a light pink. But just cut your squares out down the side, and then you'll have some 6-inch squares. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other color netting. Once you get your netting done, we're going to fold it in a triangle, fold it over again. Then we're going to kind of pinch it up at the bottom to kind of make like a little petal. And we're going to alternate between the bright pink and the light pink all the way around. Now I finally figured out if you got a little popsicle stick, it does help to set the glue so it doesn't burn your fingers. But just continue to go all the way around till you have it completely full, and any gaps that you have, just put some extra netting in it. Then you're kind of putting it down into the flower pot, probably about 1/2 inch. And I'm going to kind of go quickly through this so you can see, but you're just alternating between the hot pink and the light pink. And you can use any color that you want to, just make sure that it does kind of match your flowers. And then I did make mine pretty full. And then that's where I started overlapping where I had gaps. Next, I'm going to take some clear cellophane gift wrap, and I'm going to cut a square about 12 by 12. Fold it over into a triangle. I'm going to fold it again into a triangle and one more time into a triangle. And then I'm just going to cut a little curve all the way around the top part to make a little flower. Still a little bit large, so I folded it back together, and then I'm going to cut it off a little bit shorter. Then I'm finding my center point, and I'm going to glue down into the flower pot, and I'm just going to push this right down into the center. Now this really is not going to melt your paper. It does stay in there pretty good. And then I'm going to put a little glue around the edge, not a lot of glue, just a little bit of glue around the edge, and then I'm going to put my ornament inside of here. Just kind of line it up and center it in there. And then I am going to lift back my paper and glue it to the netting as well. Just kind of get it straightened out real good, and then just bend it back a little bit and just put a little bit of glue on several of the little netting areas to hold this in place. Then just to dress the front up a little bit, I'm just going to tie a ribbon right around the top part of the ledge of the flower pot. All right, look how pretty that turned out. This next one, I'm just going to use some clear gift wrap, and I'm going to cut these into an 8 by 8 square. And then next, I'm going to take 8 pieces of the Ferrero Rocher candy, and I'm just wrapping it right into the center, and I'm going to add a little sucker stick to go inside here too. Just kind of cut it off there, put your sucker stick in there, and then just take a rubber band to go all the way around this, just to hold all that in place. Then I'm going to add a little bit of glue here in a minute just to kind of hold it in place with the bottom part of the cellophane. Just put your little glue gun up in there just a little bit, just to get a couple little dots on both sides, and then hold that till it dries. And you're going to do that for all 8 of them, or however many of them you're making. I'm going to take some tissue paper, and I'm going to cut it into some 4 by 4 squares. Then I'm going to take each piece, I'm going to fold it into a triangle, fold it into another triangle, and then fold it one more time into another triangle. Then the point on the outside, just fold it over to the opposite side, and then just cut a curve right around the top. And then that'll create a little flower. Cut the tip off as well. And then it makes a perfect little flower. You're going to take your candy, you're going to wrap the cellophane around the stick pretty good, and then stick it right through that hole so it comes up to the top to create a little flower. Just pull it all the way to the top, then grab your 2 pieces of tape, and we're going to just tape these over so that they hold in place. Just kind of fold one side over like that. Put your tape behind there, and then do the same thing on the opposite side as well. And I'm going to do that to all 8 of mine. Taking one of the Dollar Tree vases, and I'm just going to wipe it down with some rubbing alcohol. And then I'm going to paint it with some white chalk paint, and it took me about 2 or 3 coats, I think, to get this completely covered. And I'm just using a smooth paintbrush because I want to kind of get a real smooth finish on this. And next, I'm going to cut a small piece of styrofoam to go down into the center. I'm just going to attach this with some hot glue, and then I'm going to fill in on the sides because it didn't fill up the whole thing on the bottom with some of the smaller pieces. And then I'm just going to glue my 2 smaller pieces to my centerpiece. Okay, next I'm going to use some of the flowers that I cut off that first flower arrangement. for this one. I'm using probably most all of these in this one. But you want to save the greenery too. You want to make sure that you do keep the greenery because it is real pretty with all that greenery attached. And then on the ones that don't have greenery, you can take the other greenery off that's just still on the stem, and you could put it onto the ones that don't have it. I start in the middle with a little bit taller one because I am going to kind of dome this a little bit. So you start with taller ones in the center and then come down a little bit on the sides and then a little bit shorter on the sides below those. And then I ended up cutting a couple of the little greeneries off of these because the ones that had 3, it was too much. Then I'm going to start adding in my chocolate. Now I'm going to kind of go fast through this because you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just kind of alternating between the flowers and the candy, just kind of get it spaced out really good. But I did end up putting all 8 of mine in here. And then I sharpened a dowel stick. That's how I'm getting some of these in here because you don't want to tear up the candy. So you might want to poke a hole into the styrofoam with a dowel stick and then put your candy in there. It just made it work a little bit easier. But I did end up using all the flowers and all the candy. And this really didn't take that long to do. It really turned out pretty. Okay, and that's how that looked with just all the candy and the flowers in it. Next, I ordered this pack of cellophane squares from Amazon, and you could use these on the first part of this too. I didn't get these until after I had already done my candy. But I'm just going to take these, I'm going to kind of fold them into like a triangle shape, and then I'm going to just kind of stick them randomly into this. And then I'm going to use a dowel stick to push them on down. This kind of gives it more of a flower shop look to it because you are adding some decorative pieces to it. And it did turn out pretty this way. You get 200 sheets of these in a pack for like, I think they were $8. And I'm just kind of sticking a few of them randomly into the flower arrangement. Then I'm going to put some on the edge as well. And I'm going to use a dowel stick on the ones on the sides to kind of help push them in a little bit easier. But it does kind of give it more of like a, like you actually purchased this at a flower shop. And you can use these same cellophane squares for wrapping cookies or candy or anything like that. I'm sure that there's lots of ways that you can use these, but I'm going to use these quite a bit today. And you could add other things in here too. After the fact, I thought it'd be pretty if you put some baby's breath in here as well. But look how cute that is. This last one, I'm taking some cardstock. This is 65 pound, and it comes in a variety of colors. And I'm taking a 6.5 inch wooden circle, and I'm going to draw it onto my paper. Now, you could use a bowl or a plate, just some kind of a large circle. You want something that's kind of large, and I'm just going to draw right around it, and I'm just going to cut it out with some scissors. Now, if you have a Cricut, you could make a big circle on there and cut it out with your machine, but I'm cutting mine out by hand today. Next, I'm just going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to start doing an accordion fold on this. If you have a bone folder, it makes it a little bit easier where you can get crispier lines. But you're just going to fold it over about 1/2 inch, go backwards about 1/2 inch, and keep going all the way till you get to the opposite side. And if you have a scoreboard, you could do this with a scoreboard, but they're about 1/2 inch lines. Okay, then I'm just going to take my bone folder and kind of flatten it out real good. Then what you're going to do is you're just going to fold this completely in half. And then we're going to add some glue on both sides to glue this shut. And then just hold that till that glue dries real well. And I'm going to make 6 of these. And I'm doing mine in some different shades. So I'm using an empty can from some chicken and then the scrap paper from the circles. And I'm just going to run this through a crimper. You don't have to do this if you don't have a crimper, but it does give a little texture to your paper. And I'm using 2 sheets of this because that's what it's going to take to wrap around this can. And I'm just going to glue it right to the can, and then I'm going to overlap the other piece over the top of it. This way I'll get a complete circle around it. And having a little bit of texture keeps it from looking so uneven when you do get paper overlapping each other. It does kind of smooth it out a little bit. But just get right up to the edge and then put your other piece of paper over that and then just glue that to your can. And this cardstock was thick enough that it just did stand up real good by itself. But see, once you get those put together, you almost don't see that line. And then I'm just going to have to cut this one a little bit short and to go to the opposite side. So I'm just overlapping at that point. And then I'm going to pull it up over to the other side and glue it in too. And then I'll glue up towards the top part as well. Next, I'm going to take like a 1-inch wide ribbon. I'm going to find the center of it, and then I'm going to glue it into the back of my can. So find the part that looks the best on your can where you don't see so many of the lines on the sides. And I'm just going to glue it right to the back, and I'm going to tie it into a bow into the front. This will keep it from sliding down. And then I did go back in and put a little glue underneath the front, but I got off camera when I did that. So go ahead and glue the bow to the front as well. Okay, then I'm gluing a piece of styrofoam right into the bottom of that can. Then I got a dowel stick. This one measures 7.5 inches. It's a 1/4 inch. And I'm just gluing it right to the back of this. And then I decided to get some little barbecue skewers to do the rest of them. And then I'm going to trim all these down here a little bit. Just get them all glued on real good. And then we'll trim them out when we get ready to put them into our vase. Just make sure that they are sticking straight out. So you want to take some time holding the glue till it dries so that your stick does stick straight out. It doesn't drop off and tilt at an angle. Next, I'm using the leftover netting from the first one. I'm just going to fold it kind of at an angle, kind of like that. And then kind of squeeze down the center of it. And we're going to put a piece of tape around the bottom to hold it together. And get some clear tape. Make sure that your tape is real clear. And just wrap it around a few times, and then we'll trim off the excess. And then I'm going to glue that right up to the bottom of my heart. So kind of put a little bit of glue right on the stick, and then just push that up there until that dries. And I'm going to do that on all of them. Next, I'm going to take some 1/2 inch ribbon, fold it in half, find my center point, and I'm going to glue it to the back of the stick. And then I'm going to tighten a bow right into the front. And I'm going to do this on all of mine. And I'm using the same color ribbon throughout. And next I got these little hearts at Michael's, and I'm just going to put one on each one of my little hearts. Just kind of dress it up a little. Next, to assemble my bouquet, I'm going to start with a tall one in the center, and then I'm going to start cutting them down a little bit shorter so that they kind of alternate a little bit. Just kind of want the center a little bit fuller, come in with some taller ones here that are a little bit shorter than that one, and then I'm going to cut one short one to put into the very center. And it looks like that. I'm sorry, I'm out of the camera a little bit. And then I'm going to put 2 shorter ones into the back to fill in the rest. The rest of the paper that I have, I'm going to run it through my crimper again, and I'm going to make little shredded paper with this. I didn't have any shredded paper this exact color, so I figured I'd use the rest of the cardstock to make this. So crimp it first if you do have a crimper, and then I'm going to take these scissors that are like for, actually they're really for your kitchen, and I'm just going to cut them into strips. It cuts like 4 little strips at one time, and then I'm just going to cut those off of there. And I'm going to continue to go until I have a bunch of paper shreds. If you don't have a crimping tool, don't worry about it. Just cut your pieces of paper into small strips. And I'm just using the scrap paper that I used off where I cut the circle out of. I'm going to take my hands and just kind of squeeze it to really crinkle these up good. And then I'm just going to fill the bottom of my vase with these. It just will cover up that piece of styrofoam. Just kind of start filling it in. Next, I'm going to take some of those 8x8 little squares of cellophane, and I'm just going to start sticking these down into my vase, just kind of randomly putting it in to kind of give it more of a flower shop look to it. And I'm just using a dowel stick to kind of help stick those down in there. And you don't need a lot of them. I think I ended up putting maybe about 8. And then I put some in the back as well. And I am going to run a few of them down the center. Okay, and then that's how that looked after I got done. Look how pretty that is. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Actually, a couple of these would be great for either Mother's Day or birthdays or anniversaries. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when I have a new video upload. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if nobody's told you today, you're awesome. See you next time. Thanks for watching.